the edge of too much. I should have known better. I did know better. But knowing and doing are two different things, and at some point, the line between the two gets blurry. I've been using methamphetamine regularly since 2017. Took breaks here and there. Kept it in check, or so I thought. By 2020, it was daily. I'd go a month or two, then force myself to stop for a week, just to prove I still had control. And for a while, it worked. Then February 2022 came, and I quit completely. 9 months clean, all because of a girl who didn't approve. Turns out love can be a hell of a motivator. Until it isn't. She left me in November. A few weeks later, I found out my dad has Parkinson's. And just like that, meth was the only thing left that made sense. Only this time, I didn't bother with the whole keeping it in check routine. I used every second I was awake, which, as it turns out, was most of the time. Now, I've been doing psychedelics for 20 years. I've taken heroic doses of everything under the sun. LSD, mushrooms, DMT, ketamine, the whole roster. Normally, I can handle myself, but meth changed the game. The trips weren't the same anymore. Mushrooms turned on me, made me feel like a junkie. LSD barely scratched the surface. MDMA did next to nothing. But 2CB, now that still worked, until it didn't. April 11th, 2022, 2 days awake. I was flying, caught in that familiar loop where every idea seems brilliant. Every decision feels bulletproof. I weighed out 30 milligrams of 2CB on my scale. Except my scale wasn't on a level surface. It flickered between 25 milligrams and 45 milligrams. But I'd snorted 30 milligrams before. No problem. A few extra milligrams wouldn't kill me, or so I thought. I was on Discord with some friends when I railed the line. That's when everything started unraveling. First, the pain. 2CB burns going up. But this was different. The second it hit, I felt wrong. I sat back, waiting for the familiar come up. But instead, the world started pressing in on me. 5, maybe 10 minutes passed, and suddenly my senses weren't mine anymore. Every touch was too much. Sitting, standing, moving, it all hurt. My skin rejected every sensation, like my nervous system had been turned inside out. Smells overwhelmed me. The chemical stink of 2CB and meth, my own body, the stale air of my apartment. It all curdled together into something nauseating. I could taste it. Every breath was a mouthful of my own decay. Then the visuals kicked in. Not the fun, trippy kind. This was something else. Everything expanded outward, then collapsed in on itself. The walls weren't walls anymore. They stretched into infinite tunnels, mirrors reflecting mirrors, a fractal nightmare that went on forever. Colors I'd never seen before bled into each other. The letters on my keyboard melted into symbols I didn't recognize. I looked around the room, and it wasn't my room anymore. It was somewhere else, something else. I tried to speak, tried to tell my friends what was happening, but my voice sounded wrong, like it was coming from a broken radio in another dimension. Their voices, too, warped, digitized, echoing over themselves. And then, just like that, I couldn't understand language anymore. Words became noise. I was alone in the worst way possible. Then came the fear, not the kind that makes your heart race, but the kind that seeps into your bones, the kind that makes you realize something is very wrong, and there's no fixing it. I'd been through bad trips before. I'd seen dark places in my mind, but this was something else. I wasn't tripping, I was breaking. And then, the snap, not a metaphorical snap, a real one, a white-hot crack of electricity in my brain. 1 second, I was still clinging to some shredded thread of reality. The next, I was gone, just gone. No past, no future, no identity, only raw, undiluted wrongness. I felt a shift, like reality itself had peeled away, leaving me trapped in a place that should not exist, a place of absolute despair. I've known tragedy. My little sister died at 19. I've lost friends, been through a divorce, survived things I don't even want to put into words. But this was worse. This was all of those things condensed into a singularity of suffering. Fear, pain, loneliness. Those words don't even come close. I wasn't feeling emotions. I was being violated by them. I managed to say one thing before the abyss swallowed me whole. I have guns in my house. I wasn't in control anymore, and I was scared. If I didn't say something, I didn't know what I might do. The words hung in the air like a life preserver, something to cling to. And somehow, that was enough to snap me back. Just a little. My friends were talking, and suddenly, I could understand them again. One of them told me to take my Klonopin. I don't remember doing it, but when I looked at the table later, the bottle was open. The come-down lasted hours. I sat there, shaken, waiting for reality to stitch itself back together. When it finally did, I wasn't relieved. I was hollowed out, ruined. I'd gone too far, pushed too hard, and what I found on the other side was nothing but pain. I've had bad trips before, but they always left me with something, some lesson, some insight. This one gave me nothing. It took, and it took, and it left me worse than before. That was days ago. I think I'm okay now, but when I close my eyes, I can still feel it. The sickness, the wrongness, the snap. And I keep wondering, what if next time I don't come back? Before I start, I want to share that I've struggled with weight issues my whole life. I was always at an average weight until the end of high school when I gained 52 pounds in 2 years due to mild depression and quitting sports. By the time I first tried meth, I had already lost about 40 pounds through dieting, exercise, and diet pills, Synedrine. I first tried meth in college with a friend who was heavily into it. I was already familiar with the rave scene and had experimented with alcohol and marijuana in high school, using ecstasy regularly in my second year of college. My friend smoked meth and offered me a hit from his glass pipe. I inhaled as instructed, immediately feeling more awake, with sharper vision and a slightly faster heartbeat. I found myself cleaning and organizing but was initially underwhelmed compared to the physical effects of alcohol, marijuana, and ecstasy. Over time, I learned that smoking meth affected my thoughts and emotions more, while snorting had a stronger physical effect. That weekend, I smoked meth roughly every 4 hours from early Friday morning until Sunday afternoon, without food or sleep but staying hydrated. By Monday morning, I had lost 9.5 pounds, which felt incredible as someone focused on weight loss. I started using meth regularly as a diet aid and energy booster, eventually snorting it when I couldn't access a pipe. From mid-January to early May, I used about a 20 bag per week, 1/10G or $20 worth, losing an additional 10 to 15 pounds. My GPA improved from 2.5 to 3.0 during this period, and I wasn't using meth to party, just for weight control and focus. During summer, I had limited access to meth and relied on diet pills while getting back into ecstasy on weekends. When I returned to school, I moved into an apartment and discovered a neighbor whose friend was a meth cook. I immediately bought a gram and resumed using, consuming about 3 bags per week, 2 on weekends for partying and 1 during the week for energy and appetite suppression. After a month, I lost my connection but soon found another, this time supplying high-quality glass shards. The purity made it more expensive and habit-forming. My usage escalated. I started using meth beyond weight control, enjoying the motivation and euphoria it provided. Over time, I needed more to achieve the same effects. What began as a small bump in the morning turned into multiple lines throughout the day. Instead of using meth for energy, I was now getting high, spending hours playing solitaire, chain smoking, and skipping classes because I was too wired to sit still. My social life deteriorated. I lost interest in activities I once enjoyed, and I isolated myself to get high. I was spending $60 to $100 on weekends, and an additional $40 to $80 during the week just to function. If I didn't use, I'd sleep all day, eat excessively, and feel completely unmotivated. My weekends turned into near daily use, and time blurred. 3 months felt like 3 days. By finals week, I was sleeping about 4 nights a week and weighed 134 pounds, down from 172. Despite eating frequently during the week, the weight kept dropping. At this point, I was broke, failing classes, and physically deteriorating. My once 3.0 GPA dropped to 0.5. I missed a final because I was too exhausted to get out of bed. I had been sick since September because my immune system never had time to recover. I was pale, Had dark circles under my eyes, dilated pupils, bright red lips from constant chewing, scabs from picking at my fingers, blotchy skin, poor circulation, and a resting heart rate of 120 BPM. I looked and felt like hell. Over Christmas break, I had 4 weeks of sobriety and took a hard look at what I had done to my life. I wanted to change, to be a better friend, student, and person. I saw my family doctor and, ironically, was diagnosed with ADHD and prescribed Adderall XR, amphetamine. I didn't tell him about my meth use, but Adderall ended up changing my life.